Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Dark Powerrr, where we talk about everything that happens on AEW Dark Elevation and NWA Powerrr. There's a little bit to get to, not too much this week. Had the expectation of a power surge for NWA, and that's kind of what we got. So let's get right to it right after the jump. All right, guys, we are back and live, and we are here to talk about this sort of, I guess, build that they've been doing on NWA Powerrr for the Hard Times pay-per-view. We're gonna get straight to it. There wasn't too much to talk about on Elevation. I was actually there live for it. It was taped before Dynamite in Chicago, so I saw the matches there live. LAX had a good. Pride and Powerful had a good match, Santana and Ortiz. Check that out if you get the opportunity. Let's talk briefly about this NWA episode. So what they did was they had a edition of 10 Pounds of Gold. Now, for those who don't remember, 10 Pounds of Gold was a YouTube series that the NWA did back in the day, when Nick was first champion and when when they didn't really have much of a TV deal, much of really anything, they were having Nick appear at independent wrestling shows, at different indie promotions, just things here and there to keep the NWA name alive. It was really the only championship that they had, I think. I don't think anything was really happening with the TV title. I mean, they didn't have TV or the women's title. That's actually, the women's title would be something to look into about whether or not, I think Jazz had the title, but I don't know if she was really doing anything with it. Anyway, the 10 Pounds of Gold YouTube series chronicling the history of the title as well as the current present day adventures or journeys of Nick Aldis is part of what was able to get them their TV deal, or at least garner enough interest that they felt comfortable putting that YouTube show out, the original version of NWA Powerrr. And from there, they've been able to build up a bit of an audience to where they're able to run shows. So the history of the 10 Pounds of Gold show is very important, actually, to what saved the NWA for it to be able to continue. So having a NWA 10 Pounds of Gold special be this week's episode of Powerrr is important. But I think they would have actually been better served by doing a power search. I think that this episode would have maybe been better as a YouTube thing, or to do it right after the By Any Means Necessary show. Because the focus of this episode, for the most part, is rightly on the 10 Pounds of Gold, because that's what the show is called. And there is an appearance from Nick Aldis. It's mainly Nick and Trevor, our current world's champion, sitting in a studio environment, answering questions and talking about what the championship means, what it means just as a title, what it means in history, what it means to the two of them in particular. And they frame both of those narratives through the lens and narrative of their respective matches at Hard Times 2. Great. So we have Murdoch talking about Mike Knox and his title defense. We have all this talking about Latimer and how Strictly Business fell apart after Aldis no longer had the title. And in a sense, the title was the glue that held Strictly Business together, because Latimer was willing to be allegiant or willing to be subservient to Nick as long as Nick had the power, because it was obvious Nick was powerful. So that part of it is fine. And they do a little bit of promo. It's mainly just promo videos for Melina and Camille for the defense of the Burke, the NWA Women's Championship, but there really isn't much for anything else. I think that does a disservice because the pay-per-view is Saturday, December 4th, and the last time we touched La Rebellion versus the End was a while ago. We still have no real information about this junior heavyweight championship, how it's coming back, any of that sort of thing. This was the episode to do that. So I feel as though there were a lot of missteps. For what they aimed to do, they did very well. I will say that. But for where they should have aimed, I think they were a little lacking. But c'est la vie. That's how it works. And we'll have to see what this pay-per-view event turns into, what Hard Times 2 turns into. I'm sure that we will be, well, not sure, I know, we will be reviewing it here on the True Heel Heat channel, where I need you to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe if you have not already. But guys, let's talk about this week's episode of Dark. There were some matches on Dark that did stand out to me. And we start off with this one here, with Wardlow and Shawn Spears in a tag team match against Bear Country. I like the match because it did more than usual to help get Wardlow over as a monstrous threat. Shawn Spears played his role perfectly in this match. Bear Country also did a good job. And after what we see on Dynamite, with Wardlow coming out to help Max during Max's confrontation with Punk, I have to believe that at Long Island next week is going to get Wardlow versus Punk in some way, shape, or form, or that we're going to get that maybe at Winter is Coming. Because this, I think Punk maybe costs Max the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And from there, we get Wardlow versus Punk match with Wardlow being the Dragon. Or you could also have Wardlow and Punk next week. I haven't seen if they've announced anything yet, so we'll see. But that's kind of where this has been trending. They have been having more Wardlow matches on Dark, if you've noticed. So we kind of see where this is potentially heading. And I think that'll be a pretty good match. It'll be a good test for Punk because thus far, he has mainly faced people who were, roughly speaking, his size. Wardlow dwarfs him. Wardlow is a larger person, just from height. Wardlow is a heavier person. Punk, as much as I love the guy, and we, if you are a subscriber or a viewer of True Heel Heat in any of our shows that I've ever been on, you will know that I'm a big Punk supporter. But the guy does look pretty gassed when he's in the ring sometimes. And getting Wardlow up is going to be that's going to be tough to get him up for a GTS. Maybe we see the Anaconda device. Who knows? But that's talking way too much about Dynamite when we need to be talking about Dark. So I think that this was a good match for Wardlow, and it just it stood out to me because it made me think about what we're going to get potentially in the future. But speaking of matches that stood out to me, another one that did is this one here with La Rosa Negra taking on Sky Blue. Sky Blue is, as we've said before, we've definitely been talking about her here as somebody who is an up-and-comer. She picks up the win here over Rosa Negra. But what stood out to me was the fact that Rosa Negra was making her AEW debut. And I hope that she is somebody that they bring in on a more permanent basis, semi-permanent, whatever she's willing to do. If she wants a contract, give her a contract. Because as much as they have built up this women's division, it still has some ways to go. It still has places where it can improve. And she is very qualified and very capable to be a plug-and-play kind of asset for them. So I hope that that is something that they are considering, if not already working on. Another one that stood out to me was the great match between Fuego del Sol and Ethan Page. Ethan Page is going to pick up the win here over Fuego. but this match went longer than normal Dark matches, and it benefited for it. And that's something that I say a lot because we have had plenty of times where matches have gone longer on Dark and the quality is just better. But sometimes that's not always given, that time is not always given to everybody. It's not spread as equally. Now, granted, I don't want to see Wardlow in an 8-minute match against somebody he should be squashing. That's fine. But there are other people who could and should be getting a little bit more time on Dark to tell those longer form stories, because part of wrestling, at least in the AEW style, is being able to tell long form stories in matches. We have matches that go 15, 18, 20, and longer when it comes to time. So getting these guys and gals more acclimated to putting on longer matches with a TV is important, because it's anything to have a match in a high school gym or a VFW or Logan Square Auditorium if you're freelance wrestling. It's something else entirely different when you're having that match and it's being televised. Now, I know in the case of freelance and a lot of these indies, they are able to put them on things like IWTV, and they are able to have their own pay-per-view streams. But having that experience is always beneficial. And I think Dark would be served much better if they cut down on the number of matches. There's no need for them to be having 10, 12, 15 matches. You can just have 8 matches, and you give each one a little bit more time. I think that would be something that would be very beneficial for Dark. Finally, what stood out to me is, and I think we all know, this main event. This is Adam Cole, baby, taking on Anthony Green. This was a really good match, very strong match. Anthony Green is somebody who is a solid talent in the ring, a solid hand, if you will, and we know what Adam Cole does. This match, I really don't need to talk too much about this one. It was a great match. Anthony Green deserves more TV time on Dark, more time on Dynamite eventually, but or even just Rampage, but they're going to get there with him. And Cole, we know what Cole is. Another thing to check out from this episode of Dark is the Varsity Blondes tag match, and they do cut a little bit of short little promo afterwards where Griff and Pillman continue to be the strong baby faces that they are. And yeah, that's really all we got this week. The Elevation was, like I said, it was pretty good. Check out the LAX match if you get a chance. There's some good moments there. We covered our Dark matches that we liked. NWA, they did what they did. It was a great episode. Check it out if you do. If you have the time. They have the two of them do commentary over. I think it was Harley Race versus Terry Funk, and that match is really good. But I'm not reviewing a older match for you guys in this moment. And then they give away for free the pay-per-view match of when Trevor beats Nick at NWA 73. So, yeah, that's the show, guys. We'll be back with a review of Hard Times 2 by any means. No, what is it? That's not by any means. That's the other one. There's something about revenge. Revenge is mine, says the Lord. I don't know. But the tagline has something to do with revenge. And all this in Latimer. That's the only thing that's really about revenge. Mike Knox beat you down in front of your kid. I get that. But besides that, he hadn't really done shit. Like, there's no story here. It's a pay-per-view. It's a filler feud for Murdoch before he gets to Jack Stane and or Pope. Maybe not in that order. But anyway, guys, that has been this episode of Dark Powerrr. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. Remember, take care of yourselves and each other,